All right, everybody. Want to welcome Danny Trejo here to the Olé Soccer Podcast. We appreciate everybody for joining us and for watching, whether you're watching today, Friday, June 5th, or you're watching in the near future. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Very excited to have Danny Trejo here with us. He's currently the player for Cal State Northridge, which is in the San Fernando Valley. He's also known as CSUN. Danny is the current Big West Player of the Year, Student Athlete of the Year. In 2019-20, he got invited to the MLS Showcase. I'm going to brag a little bit about Danny because I think it's very deserving because you're going to get to know a little bit more about him and his story. He's also broke the California state record with over 200 goals, 205 goals to be correct, in high school. He also won Max Prep's Player of the Year 2 times his junior and his senior year for his high school. I'm really excited to bring him on and have everybody listen to his story, what it takes to get to where he's at. I know it's only the beginning of his journey and what he does on a daily, weekly basis to maintain his fitness, his drive, and learn a little bit more about where he's going. So, Danny, excited to have you on. Tell us a little bit about how you're doing today. More importantly, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure to come and share my story. And, hopefully at the end of this interview, hopefully there's somebody that gets some details about it and is able to apply it to any way it can help them.
Yeah, of course. So I want to dive right into your soccer journey. Of course, we can get right into where you're currently at. We could talk about your high school career, but more importantly, I love to start. I think the sport is extremely important for the whole world, really. Right, the ball unites the world, but for a lot of people, it starts at a young age. When did soccer? Talk to us about the beginning of your soccer career.
Right. So I grew up in Mendota, California. It's a small town up in Northern California. And I started playing. I played in McCabe Junior High in high school, and I remember playing Little League in McCabe. So that's where it started. There wasn't really a team out there in Mendota. So it was just like playing with your own friends at the McCabe Elementary. So we would make like little teams and we'll play there. And I remember they would have little games on the weekends also. And that's how it started. And then I went on to junior high, getting older, I played there. It was fun. I learned a lot. We won the championship my 8th grade year. And then entering high school, that's when I started to look into to playing like competitive soccer. I knew that soccer was something I had in mind to come and do something with it. So I went into my freshman year and I had goals in myself that I wanted to go there and start early. Luckily I had friends and some good coaches that were able to guide me and help me throughout the process of my high school career. So I started my freshman year. I was able to had a good season my freshman year. I went on to my sophomore year, and we were also very good that year. And I went on to my junior year, and we won the championship CIF. And that's when I started getting closer to all these records after my junior year, and that's when it like started to I started to get more notice with college coaches more in down south, up north. So it was a good experience throughout that. And once I started my senior year, it was all like something that I knew what I had in mind. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was going to be a lot of hard work. We my senior year we won league. And then my senior year we started playoffs and we won the championship also. We won all the games, and then we went on to CIF and we won the first game, and then second game we lost it. We lost to a team down south. Yeah, they were able to beat us 3-2. So it was a good game. And yeah, man, that's how after I was able to get the California state record of a total of 200 goals. And then, yeah, I was getting recruited by a lot of coaches up north, down south, and some out of state. And it was just a very humble experience for me to being from a small town, being able to get all this recognition. It was just, I just wanted to just keep staying humble and keep working hard, man. And that's where I brought my talent to CSUN, and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how it gets to a certain point, because I've lived it as a player where something just clicked, right? And it seemed like for you, growing up, the fun of it in elementary and middle school, that remained fun. Did you play club soccer at all? Was it just through school until you got to high school? How was that part of your journey growing up into high school?
Right. So in Mendota, it's a very small town. So for us to be able to play club, we'll need to travel like 40 miles, which will be to Fresno or Sacramento if I wanted to play, But it's a long drive. So, I had to work with what I had. I had good coaches there in Mendota that I felt that were able to help me. I did not play clubs, so I just wanted to focus on getting better by myself, until I got to freshman year of high school. That's when I got into playing. I played a little bit of club there in Fresno, and I was able to play a few tournaments. But the majority of my soccer career was just grinding it out through high school, man.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
and that's impressive. And the reason why I'm very impressed, because not only is it you're non-traditional, you could say, at least for the youth here in that everybody, at least the world that we come from, where we coach club, we help kids get into club that will open doors. There's not just one way to get to where you're at,
Right.
and that's what I want the audience and everybody to know, that just because you play for a big club, or just because you play for a small club, and just because you don't play club, doesn't mean that you still can't attain or reach for your goals and work towards them, right? And
Right.
that's
Makes
a
sense.
great example, because you just commute-wise, you had to travel, what, 40 miles,
40 miles,
minutes?
yeah. 50-minute
40
drive,
miles just to travel to play club soccer, right? And
Right.
at times, some kids just they just can't, you know what I mean? Just because they don't drive, or maybe their parents, they cannot make that commute for multiple reasons, but that was not an excuse for you, right? At all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I knew that, becoming a soccer player and getting better each time and trying to make it to the next level was always one of my goals. I thank my brother for having to play that leadership role in my situation. And, I saw that he was able to like play very good in high school also. So I kind of just wanted to follow his lead in a way. And, that's where I was just able to make something happen.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think for us growing up in small communities, and maybe Latino communities, minority communities in general, we do need those leaders, right? We do need those coaches you were talking about, right?
Right.
Whether it's high school, whether it's community leaders, whether it's Boys and Girls Club, whether it's a sibling, right, or a friend sibling that is able to show you the path. Right. And how important was your brother's personal journey, in helping you, to get to where you're at?
Yeah. So he was always, because he actually had the record in high school of 1 year. So he always pushed me. He was that player to be like, hey, Danny, I know I had that record, but, I want you to be better than me. So, he played a great leadership role, because he always wanted me to do better. That's why I'm thankful that I was able to have him and some of my other brothers, and just coaches that were able to keep pushing me, that always believed in me.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. And I have a big brother, and I know what it's like to have a big brother, because when you're growing up, you want to be like them. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what you see. And you're like,
Right.
well, whatever my brother's doing, I want to also do as well. You know what I mean? And that's a very, very great thing he did, when he was not the type of person I was going to say, no, don't do that. He wanted you to be better than him.
Right.
And I know sometimes there's sibling rivalries, but that wasn't the case for between you two. It was more just like, be better,
Right.
be better.
Yeah, definitely, man.
So that's awesome, man. I like to hear that, and that's great to hear that he continues to be, in your life and pushing you. So now going back to your coaches. So going into high school, you said that you had great coaches and mentors that allowed you to continue your career through high school. How much did they play a part? Was it just when you got into high school, the high school season, or were they involved with you, year round? How did that work?
Yeah. So what happened was my coaches, coming into my freshman year, my coaches, they knew I was good. And they wanted me to, knowing that in high school, if you don't have grades, you're not able to be successful in the sport, to be honest, unless you're able to go and play for like a team and they pick you up at a young age. But if not, your route to try to make it to a professional soccer has to be through school, So with that said, throughout high school, I'm lucky that my freshman year and my sophomore throughout my senior year, I had them to be able to tell me, hey, keep your grades up. You have talent, but you gotta work hard. It's not gonna be easy, and then if you don't have grades, you're not able to be successful in the sport. So they played. That's how they were able to play a great part in my life. And I listened to them. I feel like as a young kid still in high school, I feel like I developed a mentality to be like a professional already, knowing that, there's obviously there's a lot of talent, but what's going to allow me to be successful is going to be my determination and just being committed, and that's something that I was able to learn at a younger age, and that's what continues to just keep pushing me and staying committed through everything.
Yeah, no, of course. And we at times, I'm a coach myself, and even growing up, I didn't realize until I became an adult and I became a coach how important coaches are for kids at a young age. At times we just kind of take it for granted. Yeah, well, I'm going to go play soccer. I'm going to go play basketball or whatever, a sport. But we don't realize, what the coaches go through. Some coaches have 9 to 5, and then they go and coach. They have families. They have, and a lot of the coaches, when they really have the best intentions, they can really impact lives and change a lot of lives through the sport and through their passion, just their ability just to be there and listen and just say,
play their part.
Danny,
yeah,
Danny, you can do it. Danny, yes, like be better. Hold you accountable, right?
For sure, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And how was your support other than your brother at home? To achieve your goals and to get to where you're at. How was that? For you at home.
Right. So, I come from a very humble family, and my parents, they never really got to experience this life. So their only advice was just, Danny, we support you, and we want the best for you. So we just want to be there for you. So in a way, I kind of had to see things myself and see what I had to do. But my parents were always that support at home. They were just always there for me to just support me in my decision, whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah. No, and that's great, because I feel at times, even if maybe your parents haven't walked, and taken that route necessarily, my parents didn't even graduate high school.
Right.
My parents never went to college. My parents don't have a degree, but they do have that hard work, they have that dedication. That's what they showed me through their actions. And more importantly, that's what they were able to instill in us and just be there to support. Like, yeah, great, do it. If that's what you want to do it. And that's
Right.
what you had at home. And at times for kids growing up, just to know that someone believes in you at home, right?
Definitely.
And when you have that support, I think it really can catapult you just to say, all right, well, I know that I'm still I'm here, and if I'm going to achieve something, I know if I go home, I'm not going to get, maybe some backlash, or maybe someone talking bad about, what I'm trying to do. So that's key, and that isn't always the case. We do also have those other cases where maybe you don't have the support, but for your case,
Right.
That's great. So talk us now a little bit more about the recruiting process. How you got to Cal State Northridge, and what made you make the decision to come here to the San Fernando Valley and play for Cal State Northridge?
All right. So, as my senior year, I was, as I said earlier, I was getting closer to the record. So before, a little before that, I was getting a lot of attention from different college coaches. And right when before the playoff games and everything, and at the playoff games, I had a lot of college coaches to go out there. So, for myself at that age, I just wanted to ball out, to be honest. I just wanted to show them what I could do being from a small town, And the recruiting process was tough because, being from a small town, you don't know where you want to go. I had the option to go down south, up, which I am right now, but also up north and out of state. So I really didn't know what to do at that time. But I talked to a lot of people, I talked to a lot of people, some pros, and just people that I trust, and just asked them what they recommend for me, and I got to visit some schools, and I came to CSUN, and when I came to CSUN, it was just like the coaches, the staff, and academics, and everything just felt really, really good for me. And I feel like for myself, I have this like feeling that where you go, and if it feels like home, or like if it feels some type of comfort, that's where you're gonna feel comfortable at. So I visited a lot of schools, and I came to CSUN, but CSUN was the one that just allowed me to feel good, talk to coaches, and everything was good, man.
Yeah. So you felt like the culture, and you felt like the environment was the right one for you, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then Terry does a good job with his staff. They recruit well, and he does a good job of building the program. He's been there for many years, 2 decades. So absolutely. No, that's a very good point you bring up, because I feel like at times we can be caught in general, right? We're talking, in general, from branding to schools to everything, just with a name, just behind this. But if you don't align, or you don't feel comfortable at a school or at a club or even on a team, right, then you just kind of have a feeling where it's just, it's not for me, but you felt that right away walking onto the campus, right?
Right. Yeah. I came to CSUN, and I went to the field, went to the practice field, and it was just a good feeling. I saw myself being successful here, and I went with it. And thankfully, I've accomplished a lot of good things this past year here at CSUN, and I'm hoping to have another great season another year here at Northridge, and make it all worth it.
Yeah, that's great. So talk now. Getting into CSUN. So coming from a small town and jumping from the high school to being home to now preparing yourself now as a young adult, being there on campus, there's a lot of distractions. I went through it when I went to, to play as well, being away from home, surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to support you, to the party scene, even to working out on your own. So how did you deal with that, from freshman to now junior going into your senior year? How have you dealt with that, and what have you learned from it?
Right. So, coming into my freshman year into CSUN, a different world, coming from a small town to like LA, there's a lot of things more going on, So for myself, my freshman year, and, there's always going to be a lot of distractions in your way, As your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, you're always going to have some type of distractions, and you're going to face some hard situations in college too, because you deal with school, and you deal with just a lot of different things, stress sometimes. But for myself, what I did, I always had a goal in mind. And, and I just wanted to come out here and be the best player I could be. And I feel like just coming here with that mentality was able to allow me to just stay focused, because I know in college, like you said, you mentioned parties, mentioned a lot of different distractions that you could go into, and college, since it's especially when you're in season, it's a closed window, very closed. So you gotta be able to be all in. You gotta be able to be committed and most importantly, discipline, you know, because you got to know what you want in mind and you got to stay to it, you know, because if you don't, time passes so quick that next thing you know, you're done with season and you didn't have the best career you had or the best season, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how was your support system there at school? How did you know who to surround yourself with, or maybe not surround yourself with? You know, when did you realize the importance of that?
You know, I think I started realizing after my first year. After my first year, I was able to just see how things were here at Northridge, and just knowing that what things I needed to do and what things I didn't have to do, you know? So I just wanted to make sure that whoever I talked to, or like anybody that I surrounded myself with, was going to be able to help me to get to my goal, you know? And I had the coaches that were always there pushing me also. In academics, I always had those like help in academics that I was able to use them, those resources. So all that, I just took advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of the times, you know, being in the school system and transitioning to a bigger school, a bigger, you know, city, and taking advantage of those resources, asking questions, asking the questions, and knowing who to turn to, who you can trust, is very big, because you realize that after about a year. And it does take at times, you know, a little longer for some, others not so long. But
Right.
how did you now, do you have a routine that you do? Is there something that you stick to, a certain schedule? Like, how did that come about for you now? Sustain that level and make that level, or your level, even get to the next level?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I feel like every year I've learned a lot of different things. You know, my freshman year, I learned a lot of things through that season. Sophomore year, learned a lot of things too. And junior year, learned a lot of things. So my routine now is really doing everything that's going to benefit me to where I want to get. So my routine is right now, you know, obviously it's a different routine when you're in season and you're in school, but right now with all this going on, and then we're out of school right now and not playing, not training, it's a little different routine. But to tell you a little bit about my routine during season, you know, it's we wake up, and if we have weights sometimes from like 8 to like 8:50, like an hour session, and then we head out to our trainings. After trainings, it's like a 2-hour training, an hour and a half. Then after, I have class from like 12 p.m. to like 4. And then after that, you have that free time from like 4 until you go to sleep. So I try to use that time to make me better as a player, you know? Obviously take care of my studies, but using that time to allow me to become a better soccer player. So, you know, this is another reason why I love Cecil, because we have a SRC right here, you know, and it just allows me to, like, all I have to do is scooter there, walk there, and it'll take me like five minutes. You know, it's really close. So I was always working on my touch, working on anything I had to do to get better. And I would just come home, have something to eat. Obviously, nutrition is important, and, you know, make sure I'm getting my sleep, and, you know, all that again. And now, you know, obviously, like I said, now it's a little different because we're not in season, not at school. So right now, what I'm trying to do is I wake up in the mornings. Right now, I'm waking up in the mornings like around 7, and I go and get my session in, my soccer training in, and then I come back, have a good meal, do some homework, watch some film from last games that I had, and just stretch. So no, I feel like I'm living the pro life right now, because, you know, I'm coming home, resting, eating good, taking naps, and then I go back to my second session in the afternoon, or even, you know, any time after 5. And yeah, that's my routine. I come back after that and just have another good meal and call it a day. It's a productive day for me if I do that.
That's good. That's good to hear. And one thing I've been looking at more and more, right? Your true behavior changes, which means, you know, the way that you act, your true behavior change. Let's say if your goal in mind, right, is to it sounds like you wanna become a pro. Is that the case? So
Definitely, yeah.
so that goal has been in mind, and I could tell without you telling me, like, you have that drive to get there, right? You have that dedication, and that vision. It's every day you wake up, you see it. Before you go to sleep, you got to see it as well, right? So in order for a player that number one has that goal, right, and they see that players want to get to that level, they got to also train like you're training right now. Like you say, you feel like you're training like a pro, right? So I was reading something that says true behavior change is identity change, right? But basically, if you want to be a pro, you got to start training like a pro.
Yeah, got to start early, developing good habits. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that relates to anything, right? But in this sense, we're talking about your behaviors, your habits, and your identity. Do you visualize yourself already training, already playing like a professional?
Sorry.
You're
Sorry.
good.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's something that I've had in my mind this whole time. And whenever I go to trainings, whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure that I'm training like a pro. You know, thankfully, like I said, throughout my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I gained a lot of new things to work on, thanks to my coaches and PDL coaches that I worked with, and just summer league. I've been able to learn, play with good coaches. So I learned some things, and I just make sure that whenever I'm doing something, I'm training like a pro, and just doesn't matter what I do, but if I'm getting touches on the ball, I want to make sure I'm focusing on it and doing the best I can, just staying ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And who helps you design your plans to train right now? For example, if somebody says, like, I want to train like Danny, I want to be like Danny, what can you do to help this player understand, like, your not only your mindset but your approach to it? Do you have a certain breakdown of what you need to do? Do you analyze yourself? Do you ask coaches? How does that process work for you?
So for myself, I've learned that, there's obviously, as a player, you have different strengths and different weaknesses. But for myself, I try to find what my weaknesses are, and just work on that. Like, for example, to give you an example, I want to work on my finishing. So I make sure that I'm getting trainings in and finishing, and just trying my best, and just try to learn the technique that I want to use. And yeah, so I just feel like as a player, you should be able to realize. If you don't, ask your coaches. I'm pretty sure any coach or any player, any person that you've worked with in soccer should give you an idea of something you want to work on, But obviously, there's things that you could always work on, which is technique, finishing, and just fitness, Those are things you could always work on. And, ask those people, and then, work on that. Find something that you're able to work within what they said. And, being a student of the game, and just being able to do what you need to work on will help you a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that, because if you're not a student of the game, and I believe that, to me personally, I believe that starts, you got to turn a certain corner in your young life, whether it is early on, around 10, 9, 14, 15. Everybody has that one moment in their life where it's like, wow, like I see now where this can go, and
Right.
I've grown love for it. And I feel the more people I talk to and the more I see it, is that not one person, not a parent, not a coach, not a cousin, older brother, sister, can tell you, like, hey, I want you to love this game. I want you to love this process.
Right.
If you don't love what you do, and this goes across the board in anything, right? In any career, any job, right? And for soccer, if you don't love that end goal, and you don't love working towards that goal, then, like,
Yeah.
right? Like, sorry.
Yeah. You gotta want it.
Exactly. And at times it needs to just come. And even when I'm sure you have those days where you're just like, you know what, Danny, you probably talking, I was like, you know what, no, like, do you ever feel like that?
Actually, it's funny you saying that because today was a day, you know. Today I went for a hike and went to train on technique after. And today, you know, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like, man, today is a tough day. I don't know, maybe because the workout yesterday, you know, but I was just tired. And those are the days. If I were to give like an advice to any player, those are the days that you got to push, because, you know, those are the days that built you, and those are the times that you get to see that through hard times, you did not cheat the game. You were able to push through, you know. So for myself, I still got up and did the same routine. You know, I feel like, I'm pretty sure you could agree with me, you know, having a schedule or just writing down what you want to do throughout the day will allow your day to just flow smooth and just feel good about yourself. And at the end of the day, you're able to know that I had a productive day.
Yeah, being able, absolutely, and I agree, and I do that. You know, I'm not perfect at it. I think nobody's perfect at it, but as long as you build those habits like we're talking about, right?
Right.
Creating a schedule, having a to-do list, right? Things like that. You get those little wins, right?
Yeah,
Even
sure.
early as getting up. When you get up, just make your bed, right?
Yeah.
That is, you already, you know, and I read that and I was like, man, that makes so much sense, because you already start your day winning, right?
And
Those are little wins.
And a positive, correct. I agree, man.
Yeah, and then after that, you can build off of that, right? And then, all right, well, I already started winning on that aspect. Now on to the next, and on to the next, and on to the next. So who taught you how to create a schedule? Did somebody say, hey, come here, let me show you? Or was it something you seeked out on your own?
Right. So I feel like it's something definitely that I've throughout experiences, I've built this, and that's one way that I was able to be the way I am right now. But another way is just you know, I'm thankfully that my assistant coach Zach from last year, you know, he was like, Danny, I actually went to his office. I went to his office and I saw a book right there, and I saw the book. The book is called The Compound Effect, and I got it, right. And I got that book and I started reading it. He let me borrow it. And, you know, this was a while back, but I got something very important from there, something that I think it's good, and it helps me. I read that it's the little things that matter, and it adds up eventually, you know. Like, for example, you're doing something, working on something on your technique or something, and you might not feel like you're improving, but it could be in the future, that consistently staying throughout the whole process, you definitely improve. So I was able to get through that book, and, you know, it helped me. It said, if you track your things down, you can see what you're improving, or you could just build good habits. So to give you an example, if I want to cut weight, or if I don't want to eat, because obviously for myself, I love sweet food. So I recently tried doing this, and it helps me a lot. I write it down, and every time I eat something, I obviously put on the top of the page, I put what my goal is. So my goal is don't eat junk food, or like have a healthy day, you know? And what I do is just write down everything I eat. And by that, just writing down everything I eat, it's just like, okay, if I have a bag of chips, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna eat this chip, and then I gotta go track it down and put it on a paper. So I'm just like, nah, I'm gonna just not do it. So it's just those little things that will really, really help you to reach your goal, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's very good advice, because a lot of the times I feel like we're not taught that at a younger age, right? We're not taught that growing up. We're not taught that even in high school, or even in formal education. A lot of the times, the self-education is probably the most important thing, right? And you went out and you sought it from Zach, and you sought it, and you say, you know what? It could have been easy. Zach could have said, oh, here's a book, you know, but you're like, well, this is something that maybe you attracted, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to read this book, and it came from you. And then he's like, oh, wow, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? And on top of that, it's easy, not easy, as for a lot of people don't like reading, right? And I feel bad for them, but for those that do read, a lot of times they read and they're like, oh, okay, that's great information, cool, on to the next book.
Yeah.
But they don't take action.
Right. Yeah. For myself, I'm not a person that loves to read, to be honest, but if there's something that you want to accomplish or learn about, you got to put in the time. And, I just wanted to, it caught my interest, and I just read a little bit. And then I started digging in more. I started realizing that it was teaching me a lot of things that could help me in my life. So, I would just kept reading, man. Just try to keep reading the book, even though reading could be boring, but you got to put your part,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of the answers sometimes we're seeking, they come in the form of books,
Yeah.
And you were able to, more importantly, implement that right away. And you said, you know what, this works, and I could see this, how I can relate what they're talking about now into my lifestyle, right? And build those habits, because people, I've read this as well, like success leaves clues, right? So if you see somebody that's successful, what are they doing, and how can I copy or take something from what they're doing into my life? They're obviously successful in whatever they're doing, right? Let's try to try a little bit of that with what I'm doing, whether it's a job, whether it's a career, school. So I'm sure now you probably even do that with your school, right? Keeps you accountable even with your classes.
Yeah, it just helps me get through it. Yeah.
No, awesome, man. Awesome. That's great, and I'm happy to hear that. Going into now, you're talking about a little bit more in regards to your routine, your schedule, and where you're going right now. How important is this next year, this next 2 years for you to get to your, right, to open more doors? Obviously, you've had an amazing career so far, but I really think that these next few months, getting out of this, once we get to the other side, I think it's really going to expose a lot of players' habits we're talking about, and overall just the drive of really who wants to get to the next level. How are you preparing mentally and physically to get to that goal? And what are you doing right now besides your routine? Where are you trying to go?
Right. Yeah. So, for myself, I obviously have a goal in mind. And, after the end of my junior year, I was able to go to the MLS Showcase. So I was able to meet different coaches, talk to them, got interviewed by them. And, I was able to have like a one-on-one conversation. They got to know me, so with this right now going on, it's obviously, we're looking forward, all seniors at least, we're looking forward to season, to have a chance at going in the draft or just be. Right. So, I was saying, looking forward to my senior year. During this time, we're trying to have a season, but we don't know if the season is going to happen or not. So, for myself, I did not sign a professional contract after my junior year, and I decided to come back to my senior year, and I want to make it historically. I want to be able to win something, because obviously I haven't won the championship here, so that's one of my goals. And I want to lead the nation in goals, and I want to be a top draft pick in the next draft. So obviously those are my goals, and that's what I see myself doing in the next month. And I'm working hard for it, and that's what I have in mind, and that's my vision right now, and I'm going all in for it.
Yeah, and if you had a dream team, let's say if you choose to, let's say locally, at least domestically in the States, who would be the team you would prefer to go to? What style of play attracts you?
Right. So when I went to the combine, I was able to talk to some coaches, and there's a lot of teams that I felt like I would be able to help, But with that being said, I feel like any team that gives me a chance to work with in the MLS, just going forward, I'm gonna be ready. I feel like if whatever they need me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. And I just think whenever the chance comes, doesn't matter what team it is, I'll be ready.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and that is a great mindset and approach that you have, because you're going to make it work or you're going to make it work, you know, and you're going to improve the team, and they're gonna thank you for coming onto the team more than you're going to thank them, right? And that's awesome. And now, who kind of like a more soccer related question, right? Who do you mimic your game after? Who's like a player that you look and you study and you say, I want to move like this person, I want to finish like this person, or is it a combination of a few? Who do you prefer right now?
Right. So, obviously I just like watching soccer. I don't feel like I have this specific player that I look to, but I get different things from different players. So for example, if I'm looking at a winger, I like how he cuts. I try to remember that little detail that he did. So I just watching soccer. It doesn't matter who it really is, because pros are playing so good already. Like, they're already pros for a reason. So for myself, if I'm able to pick up any little thing for any winger, 9, the 10, the positions I played, and if I see something in my game, I just try to pick it up and learn it.
Yeah, that's good, because that way you're not being also just thinking about what you just said. You're not necessarily being biased off of just one player, because at times, even myself, when you support a certain team, at times they can do no wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you have more of a general view, you can see like, wow, that person did this well. This other player on the other team did this well. This team in this league does this well. They work in this system well, and look how this person checks in, how they make runs off the ball. And as a player, how important has studying soccer and watching games is? Because I feel like kids growing up, the majority of them, they don't really watch enough soccer, and it could be because of a lot of reasons. But I think now with technology, with YouTube especially, I don't think there's many excuses for us not to really watch more to learn from. How important is that, do you think, for players growing up?
Right. Yeah, I think it's very huge. It's very important, because when you hear from a coach or anybody that's trying to teach you something, it's different hearing it in words than seeing it through video. So if you're able to watch that video or watch a soccer game, you'll more likely be able to understand what they do than just being told, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. I think it also relates to how human beings learn, because everybody learns differently. There's those that can just, hey, you just tell them once,
and they're ready.
I get it. Cool. Like, great, done. There's others that, like, you tell them that way. You tell them, you have them watch a video, and then you actually maybe at times walk them through that process. Oh, okay, now I get it. Right. Yeah. But everybody learns a little bit different. I think us as coaches, we can do a better job of, I think it comes down to understanding your players and how they learn, right? To be able to help them out, because at times we kind of generalize everything. Everybody should get it. If you don't get it, then I'm sorry. Then I feel at times it's kind of hurting your players, because you can't relate to them and understand how they think.
Right.
But going back to it, the watching of games, studying them, studying your positions, and when did you know that you were going to be a striker, more of an attacking player? Did you know that throughout your playing career, or did you get to a certain age like, look, this is the position that I want to be?
Right. Yeah. So growing up, I was always known and recognized for my abilities to dribble through people, using my speed and run behind the back line. So those are things that make you a attacking player, and I loved it, to be honest. I love the feeling of just helping scoring a goal or scoring a goal, so that's when I felt that, like, being an attacking player wherever I'm playing, if it's the winger, 9 or 10, it's something that I love to do. So that's just since a small age, I knew that being a forward I could help the team win, which obviously that's the goal for every team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Um, Talking about more of the striker position. I think in general, soccer is a very psychological game. And as a striker, how do you move on from missing a shot to potentially scoring the next one you get? How important is that mindset for you?
Right. That's huge. Honestly, that's actually a good question because it kind of like challenged me to think, you know? So, obviously in a game, there could be one game that you're having the best game of your life. And then for some reason, you're able to score some good goals. And for some reason, the next game, there's going to be games or times that you're not so accurate, So you just got to try to learn, try to keep it consistent and let that moment of you failing or like not getting the right pass, messing up, just letting it go and just focus it on to the next one. Because if you get stuck on that play, then it could really affect you on to the next one. That's something that I'm still learning and I'm focusing in on, and I feel like it works. Just looking on to the next play. Yeah, get over it and keep going.
Yeah. And do you find yourself at times talking to yourself even at the game, like the importance of self-talk? Do you talk to yourself often?
Yeah, man. I think a lot and visualize a lot. So with that said, I kind of like give myself some notes or like some things that I want to do. Yeah, man, I do it.
Yeah. It's extremely important. And me growing up, I never had that type of training. No one really ever, I would probably hear it once in a while, but it didn't really stick. I think the importance of players understanding why self-talk visualization is important, and coaches also now are getting into that more and more, are going to allow players at times to overcome a bad play, to overcome missing a goal, approaching a free kick, approaching a tough position or a tough play, a tough opposition even. But the importance of self-talk visualization, like you're saying, is I think what makes it's a big difference between the average to the good players and then to the great players, right? There's that. And what now talking about, obviously what you have, your story, it's really been awesome to hear your story, where you come from to where you're going. I don't know if can you hear me?
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay. Sorry. So I want to know, why do you think a team will take a chance on you? If you were talking to your potential recruit right now at the professional level, what would you bring to that team that they will not find in anybody else?
I think the number one thing that I could bring to a team is my ability to score, my ability to create plays, but most importantly, my work ethic. I know that in the pros is tough, but I know that I'm able to. I went through hard situations, but I like being a student of the game. So I feel like something that will really help any team is just me being able to be there every time, training hard, and just give the example for others. Because obviously in a team, when other players see that, it's contagious. It's contagious how you act, how you playing, and your work ethics. So if I'm able to go to any team I'm going to and give that or like show that, it's something that would definitely help a team and create a good environment overall.
Yeah. Like you were saying before, the small things, right? The small things add up, right? Those habits, and absolutely at times, I think coaches overlook that aspect. They're always maybe at times looking for the absolute best player that is the most talented, but may not have the best habits. But I think it needs to be a balance of a little bit of both, especially as you start to move up. It can't just be all talent and the work ethic's not here, and it can't be all work ethic and then very little talent. It needs to be a great balance of both.
Yeah, and yeah, great, very true. And I feel like what separates is just because obviously once if you look at any team or like soccer now these days, it's really everybody's good, or like at a top level, players are good. So what's going to separate me or really any player from your opponent? If, you know, how are you going to be able to like be better than them, or like you just got to be able to work harder than them so you could be able to be the one that eventually wins the battle, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, it's been definitely a great discussion, interview today with you. What advice would you give to a kid that is looking to potentially play at the university level, maybe Division I level, or even higher? If you're talking to them right now, like, what advice would you give to them?
Right. The main advice, to be honest, that I would like to give any player, young player, is just, if you have your goal, what you want, you know that there's going to be hard times. There's going to be hard times, but you just got to have your vision and just keep going no matter what. Having good days and having bad days. When you have good days, stay humble. And when you have bad days, know that when you push, that's when you're growing. So the best advice is, as a soccer player, as we keep, as myself, still being in college, trying to go into a top level, and for a younger kid trying to make it to a upper level, it's just being able to stay consistent and just grind through it. I have a saying that, you can't cheat the game, and the game will give you what you deserve. And if you really think about that, it makes sense. Just whatever the game requires you to do, or for yourself to be successful, do it. And, if you do that, I'm pretty sure you'll be successful no matter what.
Yeah, no cutting corners here. No.
Right, man. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Danny, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you a little bit more about your journey. I think the audience will definitely take a lot from your story and your very great advice. We wish you nothing but the best. We hope that, we can have a fall season so we can go out there and watch you play and support you and watch you reach and get to your goals. We support you 100% here, and we appreciate you once again for making time for us.
Great, man. Thank you, obviously, for allowing me to share my story and just inviting me. It's just it's something that I'm thankful for, and I just want to appreciate it, and thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Keep up the great work, and thank you again for your time and for your advice. All right, talk soon.
Great, thank you, man. Great seeing you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.